hi Stephen, why are you not at work today? Don't mind me, just doing an interview. What is happening, people? I was kind of eating breakfast and I was thinking, let me just actually film this day, kind of like a mini day in the life, because today I have a second stage private equity interview for a renowned private equity firm, and I just thought I'd take you guys on the journey and kind of walk you through like my thought process before the interview, after the interview. I like to take the edge off the interview days by just like being relaxed. So usually during the week, if I'm working, I'll usually have the news on in the background, that's sort of like what's happening at work. But today, because I want to take the edge off the day kind of thing, you know, I'm just like watching How I Met Your Mother while I run through some emails for my actual current employer at the moment, and that just kind of puts me at ease and doesn't put too much pressure on me. Obviously I've sort of been doing a bit of extensive prep over the weekend, and for the first stage of the interview, to be honest, I think I over prepped, so I'm kind of like up to date on that side of things. I'll probably go into a separate video of like, you know, what aspects of things I prepped for. So let's take it back to basics. You know, what does private equity or PE actually mean? Well, the meaning is kind of in the name. It simply means an investment firm giving a company a lot of money for an ownership stake in that company in the form of equity in the hopes of a return over time. Now, where private comes into play is that usually these companies are non-public entities, which essentially means that they're not listed on any recognized stock exchange. They're not listed at all. They're simply private companies. To summarize, private equity firms would invest in private companies, work on them for a certain period of time, you know, make sure that they're better, make sure that they're doing good, and then sell them to another PE firm or list them on the markets, usually for like a big profit. It's kind of like a house flip. So, you know, you buy a house, you work on fixing it up, and then you sell it for a profit. Now, typically private equity firms are quite small. It's usually 2 20-year veteran bankers who decide that they're tired of making millions for the banks and instead want to pocket some of that sweet nectar that's apparently buzzing around in private equity. So, you know, they quit their jobs, poach 2 of their favorite associates, convince their secretaries to jump ship, and then reach out to all the investors that they worked with in a bank in hopes of raising capital to pursue their innovative strategy of, you guessed it, buying and selling companies. Now, the firm that Stephen, I believe, is interviewing for isn't the typical startup private equity firm. They've actually been around for like 23 plus years or so, and I believe they have a workforce about over 100 people. So yeah, it's quite a big private equity firm, and they're only growing.
What we do here is go back.
So we have the corporate functions team, which is really the backbone of the organization, and you would probably recognize them as the typical corporate structure that you would have in like a financial services firm. So, you know, you have HR, legal, compliance, finance, operations, and any other back office / middle office function you can think of. Then we have the investment team, or the deal team, arguably the most coveted position within the firm. They're responsible for sourcing, investing, and monitoring deals that essentially make the investors a ton of money. Then in some niche firms, you would have the co-investment team, who essentially manage the work stream of securing extra capital from investors to participate in bigger deals with the firm, and all the other intricacies involved in their co-investment model. Some firms will usually amalgamate the investor relations and co-investment functions together. So in some firms you'd kind of have investor relations and co-investment teams. And then lastly, you have the investor relations team, who are in charge of capital raising activities, i.e. convincing investors to park their cash with the firm for some juicy returns. They also govern the fund launch process, which essentially means managing the investment vehicles that have all the investor cash for the deal team to invest. And yeah, they manage the ongoing relationship with investors as well, and provide periodic updates on what the private equity firm is essentially doing with all their money, basically. That's essentially just the breakdown of the different teams that exist within private equity, and essentially what private equity is about. So now I'm going to talk through, like, you know, the prep structure and how to approach these interviews. Now, my prep structure is typically the same for every job, with a few variations depending on the nature of the role. But for starters, I always prep using Microsoft OneNote, because I just like the way you can split out the application into various different sections, like a notebook. And this was before I became a Notion babe, so yeah, it's very much still the same thing, just with less functionality and fancy templates. In my prep structure, there are a few things that I outline. So firstly, we have the key information about the company, and I usually summarize this into like a company profile, kind of like a snapshot of the company, if you will. So in the context of a private equity firm, this would be things like their strategy, their total AUM, so that's assets under management, their returns to date, and then broadly speaking, their values, which I usually outline on a separate line. Then you want to note down role specific information. So as a key part of the investor relation role is governing fund launches, it's important to know all the details about the existing funds. So again, you'd be looking at the AUM for each fund, investor types within the fund, and where the investors are located. And then on my notes, I usually outline commercial information as well. And this is where you want to demonstrate all your knowledge about the company and show that you're an above average candidate. So in the context of private equity, we'll be looking at their latest transactions, any recent news that they've outlined on their website, on LinkedIn pages, and then some relevant market outlook information as well, just to really show your commercial awareness. And then you want to outline your whys. So what I mean by this is why the company, why the role, and why you. Last but not least, you want to have like at least 5 questions to ask the interviewer. You want to make it like really thought-provoking. So I'll usually ask like 2 broad questions about the company, 2 questions about the role, and then 1 personal question about the interviewer. And if you do this really well, this should get them talking and open up. That's if you've done your stalking on the interviewer very, very well through like LinkedIn. So a couple tips for when I'm using Microsoft OneNote. What I'll do is I'll do my initial in-depth research on the company beforehand by, scanning the internet, their website, so on and so forth, and then outline all the sections I just specified onto OneNote, and then I'll note down like key bite-sized bullet points and summaries that I can easily remember under like, each section. I'd also add like relevant hyperlinks to reference information a lot easier. And the thing I love about OneNote, similar to Notion, is that it's super portable. So with Microsoft OneNote, when I type up my notes, I'd copy the link and send it to myself via email, and then I can just open and revise my notes on my way to my interview. So it's like really nifty in that way. I'll link the interview prep structure template in the bio so you guys can access it. It would either be on Notion or it would be on the Beyond Education website. I'll hand it back to Corporate Steve's day in the life. Yeah, that's just sort of like my thought process on the day of the interview, really. I try not to consume any new information on the day of the interview. Appearance, obviously you gotta look sharp, wearing a full suit, tie, and I think the interview's at 2:30. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make my way now. What is happening, people? So I've basically arrived at the location, and it's so mad though. Like, I'm actually mad anxious because the the PE firm is literally 4 minutes away from where I currently work at the moment, so I could actually get caught slipping. Oh, hi Stephen, why are you not at work today? Don't mind me, just doing an interview.
More moments later.
Oi, what is happening, people? I probably look like a crazy guy the way I'm actually talking to the screen, but just finished the interview. I think, to be honest, I enjoyed the interview process because it was like really, really chatty, especially the interview process. So I basically had, just looking at my messages, I basically had 2 interviews. So I had one with an associate within the team, and then I also had one with the partner. And yeah, they were just like really cool, personable people, but I really enjoyed the conversation with the partner because he actually didn't test me too tough on like the actual content. He was more so like, he was really having a conversation with me and kind of was keeping me on my feet. But anyways, my bus is... What is happening, people? I think it's a day later from my private equity interview, and I just didn't check in with you guys because I just couldn't be bothered to film. So that was that. But that interview went really well, as I said, and I actually ended up getting a job. Yeah, they called me this morning and just said, yeah, like, we don't need to see any other candidates, like, we think we've made the right choice, and they sort of offered me the job, which I will be taking because, PE baby. As for now, your boy is in PE, and that's all that matters. It's kind of funny though because I just came out of another interview for a wealth management firm, and this was the 2nd stage. I think it went really well, and I very much think I'm going to be progressed to the 3rd stage as well, but I think I sort of have a bias towards the PE role as well. But I'm just going to sort of see ideally if I can have both offers, and then I can sort of make my choice about what I want that would be ideal. But if you guys like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss a thing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.